Okay.
Kum land in the Black Gemara. We are up to the Yudam and Aleph. We are learning now about Rosh Hashana, Tishrei Rosh Hashana from the Tias, who explained it has to do with Orla and Netter Ravai. 3 years and the 4 years you're not allowed to eat from the fruits. Only the 5th year, and then we explained where Tu B'Shvat comes in. That even that you start in the beginning, it has to be at least 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, and that's what we're going to discuss today. What's the idea of the 30 days? I told you the two possibilities, either because it takes 30 days for it to take root, or because 30 days is considered a whole year. Minimum of 30 days to be considered a year. And right now the Gemara thinks it's a minimum of 30 days to be considered a year. So therefore you have to have at least 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. It counts as 1 year, and then year number 2, year number 3. And because, and then if the fruits grew between Rosh Hashanah and Tu B'Shvat, it's still considered part of the previous year because it comes from the sap of the tree of the previous year. It's only if it started to blossom after Tu B'Shvat, it's considered now the following year. So the Gemara is going to discuss now this idea of 30 days being considered a year, when right in the beginning of this Masechta, we learned that if a king becomes a king 1 day before Nisan, it's considered already as a year. So 1 day is enough. Why suddenly over here do we need 30 days? Says the Gemara on Daf Yudam and Aleph, about 6 lines on the top of the page. Lema, let us conclude the Leiker Ameh, that this Brisa who demands 30 days, or insists on having 30 days before we can consider it a full year, does not agree with Rameh. Why? Because Rameh is of the opinion that 1 day is sufficient. If you have 1 day, like we had in the beginning of the Masechta, is already considered a full year. Where did Rameh say this? The Tanya we learned. Par stam. Whenever the Torah says generally a par, let's say a par ben bakar, the word par, how old does this cow have to be? So he says ben esim it has to be 3 years old. And if it's 24 months, which is 2 years, and 1 more day, which goes into the 3rd year, that's already 3 years. So those are made holds 1 day is a year. Rabbi Elazar says, no, you need 25 months, more or less, because 24 months is 2 years, and then 1 more month is considered a full year. So Rameh said as follows: Kol mokum shenemar egel b'Torah, which is a calf in the Torah, stam ben shana. A calf on its own is a year old. Ben baka, when it says cattle, is ben shtein, 2 year old. Par, a bullock, a cow is ben shal, is 3 years old. And so therefore we see clearly Meir holds a day is a year, and Rabbi Elazar holds a day, 30 days is a year. So the Brisa is, it follows. Rabbi Elazar does not follow Rameh. That's what the was asking. Says he would love after. I feel them Rameh. The Brisa can be Rameh. Where did Rameh said you had 2 full years, and now the 3rd year you wanted to be safe? It's 1 day into the 3rd year, counted as a year. Here you want to say that the 1st year of its of the Orla, 3-year Orla period, if it's only 1 day, it's considered a year. Rameh never said that. Rameh only said you already had full years. Now it's the 3rd year. The last year, 1 day is already enough. You're into the 3rd year. But the 1st year, you need a proper year. So it doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? I'll give you a kal v'chomer. When it comes a nida versus a zova, a nida you have 7 days. It doesn't matter if you bled or you didn't bleed. Comes the 7th day. You wait till your evening until you're totally clear. If it's tighter, then you go to the mikveh. So it comes to this last day. Partial day is not good enough. You have to wait till the entire day elapses before tzeitzek chavan. But when it comes to the 1st day of the nida, even 5 minutes before Shkia, she saw that's already day number 1. So here we see Pufaket. You wanted to say that the easiest time to say that 1 day that a small amount is considered a full amount is towards the end. Here we see, on the contrary, the end requires the full time. It's the beginning that doesn't require full time. The beginning of the day does not count towards the end. You need a full day, but the very 1st day of a nida, even just a few minutes is enough to be counted a day. So shana, a year. If you're going to tell me that the last year of the 3 years, 1 day is sufficient to buy a cow, 1 day means a 3rd year, then surely by Orla to start, 1 day should be a year. Then Ein surely 1 day should be a year. Rashi says that people totally misunderstood Pshat over here, and he rejects it totally out of hand. And they want to say that since today we're like a zova, the 5th day of zova, which is the Seif, is counted as the 1st day. The 5th day of Zov is counted as the 1st day of the Zayin Nikim, which is not so. But Tais already asked all the Rishonim, and they give a different shot. But they ask, L'chayr Azava, the Azava needs clean days. The first day has to be entirely clean, but the seventh day, the din is a nida has to go to mikveh at night, but a zava can go to mikveh during the day, unless they see afterwards and it breaks everything they saw. They didn't. They can go to mikveh during the day, and they are considered Torah. So we see that by a zava also, the end is easier than the beginning. Why you bring a raya from nida that the end is more demanding? We need a full end versus the beginning. When by zava we see it the other way around. But that's a separate discussion. Says the Gemara further. Okay, the Elamai. So what do you want to say? Okay, so you want to say that our Mishnah is a Meir, is Rabbi Elazar, not a Meir. Because you said a Meir holds that one day at the end, one day at the beginning is enough. And here it says 30 days. So obviously you're saying it's Rabbi Elazar. I got a problem. Because you have two sets of requirements here. You have a number of days in a year to be considered a year, but you also need that the root should take root. And therefore you need to add to the 30 days the time that it takes for the seeds to take root in the ground. Otherwise, it's just lying there in the ground. So you can never have 30 days. You need more than 30. How much longer? The Elam might have you'll need 30 days to be counted as a year, and then you need a further 30 days for the seeds to take root. So it should be 2 months before it. Now, and we learned, you're not allowed to plant. And nor can you go ahead and you bend the plants into the ground, nor can you graft. Erev Shvi'is. Remember, we learned before you have to add to the year of Shvi'is. We learned B'chodesh, V'kotz, Tishbos, you have to add to Shemitah. So you cannot do an Erev Shvi'is as well. Pochas Melamed Yom Lifnei Rosh Hashanah, a minimum of 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. V'im not, and if you planted, you bent the plant, when you grafted it, if you did it within 30 days, that means it grew in the year of Shemitah, then you have to pull it out because you don't have any benefit from it because you planted on Shemitah. These are the words of, okay, take out everything. So that's what it says. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol HaKavod, Rabbi Yehuda says, in addition to that, Kol HaKavod she'ena keletis, begil yamim shumen keletis. You need to give it an additional 3 days for the seed to take root, because if it doesn't take root, it's like nothing happened. You need 2 weeks for the seeds to take root. Amar Nachman said, Amar Rabba Barabu, the one who says that you need 30 days in order to take root. So really, how much before Shemitah do you have to plant it so we can say that it did not grow in the year of Shemitah? Tzarich lamed v'lamed. You need 30 and 30 days. You need 30 days to be considered a year, but you need a further 30 days for the seeds to take root. The Divrei Omer Shleisha, the one who says that it takes only 3 days, Tzarich Shleisha v'Shleisha, you need 33 days. The Divrei Omer Beis Shabbos, and the one who says that you need 2 weeks, Tzarich Shtei Shabbos, you need 30 days for a year and 2 weeks to take root. So l'chayda, Rabbi Elazar can't be a Mishnah either, a Bryce either, because according to Rabbi Elazar, you need 60 days before Rosh Hashanah to be considered a year planted outside of Shemitah, and it's a full year. So then you'll say, okay, who says Rabbi Elazar? V'inamik Rabbi Yehuda, even when say Rabbi Yehuda holds the shortest amount, it's really like Gimel v'Shleisha boy, you need 33 days. No one holds 30 days. Says you might go back. On the contrary, L'olam Rav Meir, 3 Rav Meir. And a man holds 1 day a year, and 30 days it takes root. That's how you get to 30 days. In fact, the price before that says you need 30 days, we're talking about taking root. But a year is taka 1 day. Says well, it's still not good enough. So you need 31 days. So why does the price say 30 days sufficient? You should need 31 days. So the chiddush is the first day of the 30 days can be counted as the day that the seeds take root. It also can be counted as the first of 30 days for the new year. So therefore, on the contrary, the Braisa is Rameh. Rabbi Yechon said, and both Rameh and Rabbi Elazar, Mikra Echad Doshu, they both dash in the same pasuk. Whether a year is 1 day or whether a year is 30 days, they both, behind the argument before about the cow, it has to be the third year. 3 years is just 1 day in the third year or a month in the third year. And they're both arguing on the very same pasuk. The pasuk says, and they're just arguing how to interpret it. It says we just read in Pasuk Noach, he ba'achas v'sheish me'ir shana, 600 years and 1. But the way it's written here is, it doesn't say v'sheish me'ir ba'achas shana. It says ba'achas. So according to one opinion, there's going to be a comma there, and then v'sheish me'ir shana, 600 years, as we'll soon see. B'rishon be'echel ha'chodesh, the first day of the month. So it's the first month and the first day of the month. Is it Ramesha, which is what? Which is the month of this. or the month of Tishrei, depending when you hold that the world was created, depending on when the Mabul started. But as we'll see later in Rashi, everyone seems to be in agreement over here that the world was created in Tishrei, and this is talking about Meliksiv. It's this is talking about Nisan 6 months later. Meliksiv, it's Malakat. What is it? That Meir holds. Okay, so if the Mabul started on Yud Zayin Cheshvan, so this is talking about the first day of the month of Tishrei, right? So it says it's 11 months later. We already had the water starting to subside, and first you had 40-day Mabul, then you had 150 days you had where the water got stronger and stronger. So that's already 190 days, and that really takes you to Sivan. And then the water started to decrease, and the 10th month, which is Av, that's when the peaks of the mountain, the summits became visible. And then during the next 2 months, the water absorbed further, was lower and lower, and he sent out the raven and the dove and so on and so forth. And so this, if you follow that the world was created in Tishrei and the Mabul started in the month of Cheshvan. According to the opinion that the world was created in Nisan and the Mabul started in Iyar, so then when it says in the Pasuk edition, it must be talking about Nisan. Okay. So therefore, it seems to be saying here in the 601st year, and it says, it's not 601 years, it's 600 years and 1 day into the next year. Because we're talking about the first day of the first month. So it can't be talking about a whole year went by. We're talking about just 1 day into the first month, right? So now, this is, so the Chayt is clear, 1 day in the first month is already considered the 601st year. So this is a Meir Zeraya, that 1 day in a year is already a new year. Says the Gemara, we're talking about 1 day in the next year, into the 601st year. The Ayil B'Shana that went to the new year. And yet, it says 601 years. Shmamna doesn't prove that Yom Echad B'Shana, Chosh Shana, that 1 day is already considered a full year. B'Yidach, what does Abelazar say? No. If the Torah would have called it the 601st year, you're right. Iksiv b'sheish mei v'achashana 601 years. Then you have a good proof. Now what? That 1 day is considered a full year. Hashta d'chsiv, it says b'achas kama b'sheish mei shana. So 600 years and then 1 more day. Shana asheish mei shkoi. The word year goes on 600. My achas as chalta the achas kama, and 1 day means 1 day into the year, but it's not a full year yet because you need 30 days. Rabbi Lezer, my time, what's his what? How does he know 30 days? Okay, so it's not 1 day. Maybe it's you need a full year, 6 months. How's he know 1 day? 30 days. Because it says the pasuk Barisha in the first month, the first day of the month. So we see how do you count months by days, and it's already considered the first month. So we see that a month. You take the way you count the month, and we already 1 day, and those numbers into it is already like a full month. But the kati is only 1 day into the month, and yet we call the chodesh. Shmamna, what does that prove? That you mechad b'chodesh, chashav chodesh. It's called the chodesh. Since 1 day in the month is called the chodesh, then lamed yom b'shana chashav mishana. Then how do you count the year? By months. So one of the ways you count it by months is, so as soon as the number 1 goes through, it's a full year. The chodesh you count by the way you count the chodesh, which is made up of days, and therefore the year is made up by the way you count it, which is made up of months. Because we always learned in the Torah, Rosh Hashana. That's why he holds 30 days. Now that we brought this up, Tanya, we learned. We learned that Abelazar, Rashi deletes the words Miklala Tavai Shvila B'Nis Negra because you can learn Echad HaChodesh can either be the month of each opinion will hold that Echad the Chodesh can either be month of Nisan or Tishrei. As far as the year is concerned, if Tishrei the world is created, Echad HaChodesh can be month of Tishrei, even though it says the first month of Tishrei. And the other one says it means Nisan. And but Teshuvah does leave it in, and because he says that everyone agrees that what do you call it? That Nisan the world was created. Okay, what's going on? Rabbi Lezer says, "Tishrei nivra ha'olam." Rabbi Lezer, we have now this argument when the world was created. According to Rabbi Lezer, the world was created in the month of Tishrei. And Tishrei is a major event as well because a number of milestones happened. When we say Tishrei, we mean Chav Hey El. and that's why we start saying slichus around that time. But Tishrei, the others, the month of Tishrei, the others were born in. But Tishrei, Meso others, Tishrei, the others passed away. Because we generally have a rule of Mor Kedusha that tzaddikim, mispar yamecha amale, tzaddikim pass away the same day that they were born. In fact, even the ones that we know are very, very few and far in between. That when they were born, Moshe Rabbeinu we say was born Zayin Adar and passed away Zayin Adar, and we know that he was born Zayin Adar only because of pasuk es mitzvah mecha amale. So we make that calculation. He must have been born and passed away at the same time. And we don't really know in history. Tzaddikim, too many tzaddikim that passed away. Mittler Rebbe was born and passed away in the same day. Very, very few others that we know for a fact that that's what happened. Anyway, Tishrei they were born. Tishrei they passed away. Pesach no Yitzchak. Yitzchak was actually born on Pesach. But Rosh Hashana, that's why I read Nifkada, Sarah, Rachel, Chana. Hashem remembered Sarah. These are all women who were barren, and Hashem remembered Sarah, didn't have any children, and Rachel and Chana and Haftarah we read. Rosh Hashana Yatza Yesi Beis Hashana Yesi was released from prison. Rosh Hashana Botla Avodim Avosenu. On Rosh Hashana in Mitzrayim they stopped working. They left Nisan, but 6 months prior they stopped working. Tais already asks. We know that the makkahs, each makkah took a month. So if each makkah took a month, how come when did they stop working Tishrei? Makkahs would have started the previous Nisan. So it's traces interesting that during the first 6 makkahs, the Yidden still continued to work. They still continued to work, and it's only in Tishrei that they stopped working. Can you imagine the Mitzrayim were being oppressed, and yet they refused. Look at kind of action there. They still refused to relax the laws against the Yidden. Doesn't matter what, even though they were suffering from the Makkahs. Benissen Nigalu. That's the fact. The Torah says they left Mitzrayim and this, but Tishrei in the go. The Geula Shlem will be the same time the world was created. So therefore it will happen in Tishrei. Rabbi Shudas agrees. He says, Benissen Ibn Olam was created actually in the month of Nisan. Benissen Olam. He says, you say the others are born on Tishrei. I say all the others, Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov born in Nisan, and Benissen Meso others. Because Tzaddikim pass away at the same time they're born, so they passed away in Nisan as well. But Pesach and Yitzchak, within Nisan itself, Yitzchak was born on Pesach. The Rosh Hashana, that I'll grant you. The Hashana Nifkada, Sarah, Rachel, Chana, those three, Hashem remembered them, they conceived. The Rosh Hashana, I also grant you that Rosh Hashana Yosef went out of jail. The Rosh Hashana, Mitzrayim, I'll grant you that as well. The Rosh Hashana, they stopped working in Mitzrayim, and Benissen Nigalu, the Eden left Mitzrayim and Nissen, and Benissen Nasin Ligo, and Nissen they will be redeemed because that's where the world was created. Tanya, we learned the Braisa. What's the basis of their argument? Rabbi Lezer says, how do I know that the world was created in Tishrei? The pasuk says, Hashem said, that they should fill with grass. The world should be created as if already when the world was created, it wasn't like if you would have been born. If you'd been created a day later, when Adam was created, it looked at the world, it didn't look like the world was only 6 days old. The world was replete with everything. And therefore, everything was covered with grass. The trees already laden with fruits. Ezo Chodesh. Which month is it? Which month is it? She'ha'aretz, that the Aretz Malaya D'Shayim, the world's already full. It's already covered with grass, Elam, Molid, Pedis, and all the trees are laden with fruit. It's already after the season, and everything is still there. But Oisa HaPedic, and that's when Adam was created, when everything was already done. It was all full, ready and done. So obviously it was Tishrei. It could be Nisan. There's no fruits on the trees yet. There's no grass yet. It just came out of winter. But Oisa HaPedic, and that season's man revi Oisa, the time of rain, the Yordu Shamim B'Simchu, and it continued to rain and it grew. Shenemar, it says, Ve'ed Yalam in Oretz. And then the cloud, the vapor went up from the ground, and it filled the entire earth. That's one opinion. So in other words, he's emphasizing the pasuk where it said that everything already was done and over, which means that it already grew. So we're talking about Tishrei. Rabbi Yeshua puts an emphasis on a different pasuk. How do I know that Nisan the world will be created? Because the pasuk says, I wanted to produce grass. No, it didn't happen yet. I wanted to produce grass. The eight oisepri. I want the tree to make fruits. It hasn't happened yet. I want the tree to make fruits. In other words, we're talking about the season right after the winter, before anything grew, which is Nisan. Ezel Chodesh, which is the month that Shaha'aretz Moitzia, the Shoyim. The Elon Moitzi Pedek, that's about to commence. How the aim is a Nisan. But Oisa Pedek at that time, which we learned before, Elul Adar and Nisan, is Man Behema V'Chayi V'Oivshem is Davkin Zaytzazeh. That's a time when all the animals mate with each other. Shenemba, we learned yesterday in the pasuk, Love Shu Chodim Hatzoin, that the sheep, they were filled, they're dressed, they became pregnant. And we said it's a time, Yisraelu Af Yashiru, we said at the time when the wind knocks the stalks and they sing and everything else, which is Nisan time. So therefore, the question is the emphasis. Which pasuk we're talking about? Are we emphasizing the pasuk that had already happened, which is Tishrei, or we're emphasizing the pasuk which says Oisepri, which is supposed to happen? In other words, it didn't happen yet, which is Nisan. Now, what each one can do with the other person's pasuk? It says clearly the pasuk Oisepri that it should bear fruit. In other words, it's talking about the season before the fruits blossomed. Who lebracha. That pasuk 8 Oisepri was not talking about current events. This is already the month of Tishrei. It already happened. But it's saying I don't want to be a one-off event. I want 8 Oisepri continuously. The tree should bear fruit. The Idach Nami, the other opinion of Ksiv, it says 8 Pri. It says the tree was already laden with fruits. That must be Tishrei. How can it be Nisan? Who could have a Shuman Levi? That follows the view of Shuman Levi. Shuman Levi, Kol Ma'aseh B'Reishim. How did Hashem make the world? L'koimason, they were already full height. It wasn't like a little baby. Who would have taken care of Adam as a little baby? They were already full height. Nivru, L'daita Nivru, they were created, and that the Eibishter actually asked them their opinion. Rashi actually explains, they were asked, "Are you happy to be created?" And they all answered yes. And Litzivyoina Nivru. And they were created according to their means according to their beauty. In other words, they're all created when they're full mature. They weren't created when they were young, like little younglings. They were created as a full mature animal, bird, whatever it is. So from the beginning, it says in other places that Adam Rishon was created as a 20-year-old, which is considered, in halacha, that's when you chayiv mitzvah shemayim. And here in property, that's when we say that in Rabasa that you are fully mature. That's how they were created. Remember, it says, "Vayachulu hashemayim va'oretz." Rashi limits of does not mean the full maturity; it just means each one has their own form. Vayachulu shemayim v'chol tzvam, matika tzvam, elot tzivyoinam, according to their full form or their maturity. So therefore, what do we see from here? That the Eibishter Chatchila created the world, he made it as if the world was already fully mature. That's why H Pri and all of those things. But in the future, this is really the season of 8 Oisepri. It's really Nisan. Just that particular time, the first time, everything was already there. Everything already happened. It was already fully blossoming, and every animal was built in its state of maturity, and so on. So here we have the argument, and we'll continue tomorrow. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yeshua, whether the world was created according to Rabbi Lezer in Tishrei, according to Rabbi Yeshua in the month of Nisan. We'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.
Thank you.